Information, opinions, and the latest statistics. This is Frankly Hockey, your one-stop shopping for all things hockey, Monday through Friday on Victory Plus, 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. That is Frank Seravalli, the hockey insider. I am John Buccigross in a hotel room across the street from ESPN. We straight G's, and we came here to ball. It's January the 6th, 2026. Frank, happy birthday. Donald Brashear is 54. Noah Dobson, 26. Mike Layute, 70. Mackenzie Weegar is 32. And how about the story of Rod Buccigross, Frank? He's 65 years old today. After over 500 games in the league, 1,000 PIMs, he was in Pittsburgh just before Mario arrived, and then when he did arrive, after that career with the Penguins, Canucks, Blackhawks, Kings, he is just retiring from a second career, 20-plus years as a pilot for Hawaiian Air.
Come on.
Run. NHL for over 500 games, play with Mario, and then be a pilot for 20-plus with Hawaiian Air, so he hasn't paid for a flight in his life.
Living the good life with Hawaiian Air, too. Are you kidding me? Out in Maui, wherever your home base is? Come on. What a life.
Way to go, Rod Buccigross. He was a tough bastard, too, man. He would pummel people.
Seriously, though, how did you come across that tidbit?
Hey, you're not the only insider on this double box, kid. I got some inside information,
I know.
too,
I'm just it's such a random piece of knowledge. Where did it arrive from? That's all. I'm not asking for sources. I'm just like, holy smokes! How did you know that?
I will never reveal my sources. I'll go to jail before I reveal my sources, Frank.
Yeah.
We got 5 games we got 5 games. This is now, I've rebranded this part of the show, Frank. You construct most of the rundown based around your hockey knowledge information. And I kind of throw this little thing at the top of the show to kind of get into the rundown. And I'm going to start calling this Beans and Franks. It's just a bunch of different stuff, beans and Franks, and just kind of a mosh pot. So
okay, great. I'm sure no one's thinking about Frank, me wearing a hot dog suit.
I hope they do. That's part of it. I like the multi-layered information. So we have 5 games tonight, Stars and Capitals, Stars on Victory Plus. They've lost 6 straight, Frank. But how about Wyatt Johnston? He's already up to 15 power play goals this season. The Dallas Star record since they moved to Dallas, Modano 18. Hall had 15. Ben had 17 in 2015-16. So Wyatt Johnston's going to break the record probably for most power play goals in a season for a Dallas Star. That's one of 5 games tonight. Calgary. We're going to talk about Dallas in a minute in the rundown. Calgary's at Montreal. Blues at Blackhawks. What a tilt that was back in the days. The Sutter brothers, Brian and Darryl, captains of those teams. Senators in Utah. Looks like they're going to get an outdoor game. Hey, Frank?
Yeah, announcement
news
coming
conference
today with the commissioner and owners Ryan and Ashley Smith at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Pretty cool. So the Sens are in Utah for a game tonight. Good to break news, the day of the game. Maybe some ticket sales. Never know. Walk up, get the people excited. And the Sharks and Macklin Celebrini are in LA, and that could be the speculate to accumulate portion of the show very later. Frank is on a heater right now with his prognostications. Our guest is James Nichols. He's a reporter with the New Jersey Hockey to talk Devils. We'll talk to James with Devils. And Frank, my first question, James, will be, did the Devils hit rock bottom last night with their 9-0, 0 penalty minute game loss?
1 goalie game.
1 goalie as well, 9-0. All right, before we hit the rundown, more Beans and Franks, just a quick reminder, the top 6 in points in the NHL right now, Frank, are McDavid by 1 over McKinnon, and then 10 points underneath McKinnon, Celebrini. Kucherov's up to 61, Draisaitl's at 60, and Mikko, the Star, is at 59. Top 5 in goals, McKinnon 35, McDavid's up to 28 now, second in the league. I've said on this show last month or so, Connor's got to score goals, especially in the playoffs, for them to win a cup. Boldy's got 26. Jason Robertson up to 25. Another one last night. Geeky, he tied with Geeky, 25. How about top 5 points D-men, Frank? Makar, number 1, 48. Werenski, another monster year, 45. Lane Hudson, 42. Bouchard, 39. And then Radish, UFA to be, going to be rich this summer. And Heiskanen tied at 36.
Radish, 12 goals.
Yeah. Unbelievable. We might get 20.
Are you kidding me?
What timing? Top 5 power plays. Oilers 1, Stars 2, Penguins 3. They're all 30% and up. Bruins 25%, Vegas 25%. We talked Vegas yesterday. I texted Bruce Cassidy. I go, what's the problem? You guys are playing like doggy wallop. He goes, we're in a rut. You're in a rut. I'm in a rut sometimes. We have viewers out there. Sometimes you get in a rut in life, right? I think Dallas is in a rut. We'll hit on them in a second. And for those teams who love Tankapalooza, bottom 5 teams in the league, Blues, and then Chicago, and then Calgary, and then Vancouver, and the Jets are number 32. As you mentioned yesterday, from President's Trophy to last. It's a little early.
Can't do lottery talk. We'll get to the lottery odds later in the season. It's January 7th. We can't.
I know, but the draft is so good.
One good week. The Sabres have shown you 2 good weeks takes you to the middle of the pack in the NHL.
That's it. And a couple quick notes. Adam Fox, long-term injured reserve. That kind of came out of nowhere. He's got to miss a minimum of 10 games for the Rangers.
And 24
he came
days.
Back. Yeah, and he came back. The power play was a heater. And Brandon Bussey is 15-2-1. Brandon Bussey is 15-2-1. He's in the Vezina talk now, Frank.
No, he's not. I mean, look, I love Brandon Bussey, but he's not.
What if he's 29-4 to end the year?
Logan Thompson was too like that, and he didn't end up in the Vezina talk.
Good point. All right, to the rundown. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Trevor Zegras, what a night against the Ducks. Did somebody step on a duck? Yes, Travis Zegras did last night. Trevor, the Ducks are now winless in 7. Got to fix that. Zegras, 2 goals, up to 17, Frank. 4th multi-goal game this season. That's most in the season since he was with Anaheim during the 21-22 season. He's now on pace for 34, 37, 81 points. RFA for 2 more years. UFA 2028. They do a 2-year deal like Marty Necas did in Carolina, or long-term it. Traded from the Ducks to the Flyers in June, and what a night for him. It was on his mind, Frank. There's the Selly. What was that about?
Beyond on his mind, as he mentioned to Scott Hartnell in his post-game on the bench interview with a couple expletives as well, which for whatever reason, the audio guy in the truck in Philly was sleeping as those went out onto the air with an apology afterwards. But the hang up the phone, he just said, it was a really short phone call. And he didn't elaborate, but we're guessing that it's a rather brief Pat Verbeek calling to let him know that he was traded. This is a team that gave up on him. This is a team that after back-to-back 60-point seasons as a 21-year-old in the NHL that they said, hey, we need to move on. The fact that the Anaheim Ducks didn't even get a first-round pick back for this talent and the Flyers were willing to give a second and Ryan Poehling speaks to really the spot that Trevor Zegras was in with the Ducks. Where would his career be heading next? Is he a center? How will he impact the game? Those are all questions that the Flyers have kind of allowed him to answer for himself. He's been able to be himself in a big way with the Flyers. And now I think we talked yesterday on the Ducks intermission on Victory Plus about the Cutter Gauthier trade and how much the Flyers would rue or regret trading a player that I believe will be a 50-goal scorer, which, by the way, he scored in the first 5 minutes of the game while they're booing him, which was electric in its own right.
Yeah.
But when you consider these 2 trades together, now, let's take those 2 trades and smash them together.
Okay.
And you've got essentially Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale for Cutter Gauthier and Ryan Poehling. So now 2 separate deals, of course, and there's second-round picks going each way, so there's a wash here. But I think the Flyers, in the end, they come out ahead. At least based on the early returns of the Zegras deal. Look, Cutter Gauthier is a dog. He's going to be a fantastic player and is on track for 40 in his own right. But when you add in a second pair defenseman in Jamie Drysdale, that tips the scales for me, and it allows me to consider the totality of these moves in a different way. Am I crazy?
No, and Flyers had no leverage in Gauthier. He wasn't going to sign with them. He could have gone back to college and eventually become a free agent. He had that leverage. The guys don't want to do that, but they do have that leverage. I think it's soft leverage, but they have it. And obviously with Zegras, the Ducks really didn't have a lot of leverage because they had their top 6. They identified, Carlson, Terry, Kreider, McTavish, Seneca, although I think obviously they're surprised he came on this quickly, and then Gauthier. That's their top 6. And, Zegras isn't a third-line guy, although certainly would have made them a lot better on the wing there. But like you said, overall, probably the Flyers by a smidge. But again, I think the Ducks see Gauthier, like you mentioned, as a 40-goal guy. The Flyers don't have someone like that right now. They need to find someone like Cutter Gauthier, whether via trade, develop someone in their system now, or draft someone down the line. And but yeah, right now what Zegras has done to the room, and he's not obviously quite the Schaefer kind of comp, different position, different age, different. But Trevor does bring some of those personality traits where he takes pressure off other people because he doesn't mind the attention. He doesn't mind. He doesn't get. He's not self-conscious from cameras. And that's a great thing about Schaefer. Schaefer's he's cool. He'll talk to anybody. He's a great interview. He can talk to Tom Brady. He can sign an endorsement deal with Tom Brady. He's comfortable talking to Kings and the Zamboni driver. Like, that's a great skill that these guys, and I think Trevor has some of those similar characters.
Yeah, I agree. I think the next question is, in this timeline, you mentioned the extension. How do the Flyers view it? I said on yesterday's show, I think he's a guy that needs a carrot dangling in front of him to continue to motivate him. I think the last thing you want is for him to be complacent, because he is so immensely talented. He has the capability to be a consistent 85-point player in this league, scoring 30 goals if he's on. I mean, look at last night. It's the best example. That team comes to town, his first crack at his former team that gave up on him, and he's out there hunting for the hat trick late in the third period. He wants it that bad. That's a great quality to have on top of the skill. But it's these nights where, you don't see him, or you're not getting it. You don't want to go whole chunks of seasons with that. And I think if you sign a guy like that to a long-term deal, that comfortability, it's human nature. It's not a knock on him. That's what a lot of people will do.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. It's affected me, but broadcasters sign contracts as well. And I'm in the last year of my deal now. So it gets your attention, and for Zegras, like you said, he's in the same position as Necas. He's an RFA for 2 more years after this year. That's what Necas was, right? He's with Carolina. Now, Trevor's the new shiny toy. It's a little different. Necas, and at the time, Don Waddell, it's like, I don't know. So maybe we trade him. But a team wouldn't trade for Necas a proper deal without an extension, right? So if he's not going to agree to an extension, you can't do a trade with him. So he signed the 2-year deal. He bet on himself. This is the last year of that 2-year deal, $6.5 million. Bet on himself, got dealt to Colorado. Perfect spot to pad your stats and get the highest number of stats you could get playing with Makar and McKinnon. Now he goes in what? He's 11.5 starting next year. So that's what Zegras is. Will he sign the 2-year deal? Probably at what? 7.5 would be my guess for a 2-year deal. Maybe 8, but even let's say 7.5. And then we'll see or does he go 7 times 10, right? Or 11? That's the thing. Figuring out that number.
Yeah. I mean, I've made my case. I wouldn't go long-term unless you're getting it at a super friendly deal. If you're going to say 7 times 9, okay, then I'd say, sure, give it a whirl. But I'd rather pay 10 short-term to make sure that he's hungry and competitive.
Okay, because I think that camp, Trevor's camp, is looking at the Necas contract. That's the one he wants. Similar age, he's got a lot of runway. He says, if I'm on the wing of McKinnon playing with Makar every shift, I would have those numbers. Like, I'm the same guy. I can create and I can score. And I
Trevor
I think that's
just
reasonable.
Doesn't have the size that Marty Necas does. I mean, Necas is a horse, and that's a big differentiator. So I mean, Necas has a couple north of point per game seasons under his belt. I mean, this one and last, like, Trevor Zegras doesn't have a north of point per game season, so I don't know that you can ask for that yet. We'll see.
Okay, I would. I think that's my comp as a player. Like, that's my comp. But like you said, when the Flyer just like, well, let's go 2 years, and that times 8.5. We'll go a little higher, maybe we want for 2 years, and then get you to UFA. Then we'll see. All right, John Cooper, 5th coach NHL history, Frank, to reach 1,000 games with one franchise. As the Bolts go out then and win over Colorado, great night for the Cooper family to celebrate that before the game, and then beat the best team in the league. Tampa now has the best record in the East.
What an incredible accomplishment this is, to think that in today's NHL, where the average coaching tenure is 2.1 years, that John Cooper has now reeled off 1,000 consecutive games and 4 trips to the Stanley Cup final during that stretch. Beautiful montage by the Tampa Bay Lightning, narrated by none other than Scotty Bowman in the arena last night. Was awesome. And when you look at these guys who have coached 1,000 games with one team, he's just the 5th man to do it. The amazing part about this is every one of the other 4 have also coached games somewhere else. So it's one thing to do 1,000 with one team, but it's another thing to do 1,000 with only one team. And so, not saying that's definitely what's going to happen with John Cooper, but this longevity, it blows my mind, Butchie, that John Cooper has not won a Jack Adams.
It's ridiculous.
I can't even imagine or fathom that that's the case. I think it's so much harder to do it with longevity, the way that these guys are disposed of. It's a lot easier to come in and crack a few skulls and change the expectations of a team that had some talent over a 182 game stretch than to do it consistently year after year for a decade plus, 13 years now, the way that John Cooper has done it in Tampa.
57 years old, very young. He's got a lot of runway to go, probably even say, at least 10, but he could probably go up to 13. He's at, 600 wins now. He's going to get to 1,000 wins. He's not. I don't think he's going to catch Scotty at 1244. He'd have to coach it till his early 70s, which is possible. If he's still into it, unlikely but possible. Won a championship in the NAHL, the USHL, the AHL, and the NHL. Didn't coach in the ECHL, or he would have won one there as well. Just what a story, Frank. From just being a lawyer, I'll go help coach this team, and suddenly he's going to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's unbelievable. Only in America, only in North America.
He truly is. Oh, I get my fingers wrong here. He is the Ted Lasso of pro sports. Like, he really is. And college lacrosse player, super passionate athlete, and just someone that gets people. And that was the other part. And I don't know if you watched the messages. Steven Stamkos was on the big screen in Tampa. Mm. But so many of John Cooper's connections from along the way. Pat Maroon played on that team in the NAHL. He was part of it. Guys that he won in the American League with, they were in that video. Everyone that John Cooper has connected with, he finds a way. He has this unique ability to make you feel seen and make you feel special. And there are so few people in this world that light up a room and command a presence the way that he does. It's not about structure, X's and O's. You can find people that can coach better than you, that know that part of the game better than you. But he's found a way with his message to consistently deliver, and he's got the assistants along with him that do the job.
Yeah, he is a connector, like you said, a people person. His cell phone, I can imagine the names that are in there, from obviously every hockey person to Charles Barkley to I'm sure musicians. And yeah, I was down there. My son took a gap year after high school and before college, and down in Florida. Said, let's go to the Tampa game, go see Sidney Crosby play for the Penguins. And I was just down underneath watching the Penguins drive the bus. My boy's 17 years old, and I'd never met John Cooper. And he kind of looked down and he saw me with my son. He kind of waved at me, brought me into the room, told me about this whole story that he's doing that year with Navy SEALs. He was always, all coaches like to have some sort of theme, and he would bring these people in to meet the players. And he gave me a tour of the locker room and went back to this little closet back by all the by the T-shirts and the equipment. And there's a small little room, and he opens a door, and it's Alex Killorn, Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, just sitting there watching NHL Network. Just kind of it's their little their little enclave. They can just kind of decompress after a game. And Cooper just popped his head in, introduced me to them, and it was just like you said, that he made that connection with me, and that's what he's done his whole career.
He just makes you feel seen. And for the lowest guy on the roster or the king, as you mentioned, that means something. You got to get buy-in, you have to have people believe, and they do that.
He's 58 years old, turns 59 August the 23rd, which is also Ray Ferraro's birthday. Let's talk about the Dallas Stars. Tough stretch. We talked about Vegas being in a rut yesterday. The Stars are in a rut. 6-game loss, as you see there. So 0-3-3 officially. They began a tough 6-game road trip last night, Frank, in Carolina, with a tough 6-3 loss. Mikko, a goal and an assist, but was a -3 in his return to Raleigh after his 13-game Hurricane career. Yep, throughout, as Rod Brindamore said afterwards, boy, they kept it up the entire game. Our fans are passionate. 3 points for Jason Robertson. He's up to 25 goals now. They're in D.C. tonight, Frank, against a Capital team who had their rut, right? Now they seem to be maybe climbing out of their rut.
Yeah, but I'm a little concerned about the Dallas Stars. This
Okay.
is that first speed bump of their season, and quickly, objects in mirror are closer than they appear because the Minnesota Wild have now run them down and caught them in the
Yes.
standings. That's one. Two is their power play has gone incredibly quiet. You talked about the impact that Wyatt Johnson has had, who, by the way, Jim Nill, part of the Team Canada management team, said publicly yesterday that Wyatt Johnson is still very much in the mix in terms of a standby option for Team Canada. So he's clearly advocating for his guy. But this Stars team, it's really not that much of a reach to think that this month could go a long way in determining home ice advantage in that first round collision course with the Minnesota Wild. I mean, this road trip is wild. So they're playing back-to-back games. It's 6 games in 10 days. They're in Washington tonight. Do you know where their next game on this road trip is?
Hmm.
San Jose. The old
Ooh.
Washington to San Jose road trip. Whoever saw that coming? And they've got another back-to-back in this. They're missing some players at times that have been banged up. I'm just the Stars had such a hot run that was masked by the Avs lapping the field that now they've sort of come back to earth, and the Minnesota Wild have caught up and could potentially pass them here. Of all the things that might matter, we tend to poo-poo the idea of home ice advantage. Like, it probably is going to mean something in a series where the margins are so incredibly tight.
It could, like you said, it's Capitals tonight, and then they fly to San Jose, and then they go to LA. So you have 3 games in California. The second, or like you said, back-to-back Kings Ducks. That's a pretty easy back-to-back. If you're going to have one, you don't mind that one as much, but still, it's still a back-to-back. And then they go to Utah quickly before returning home to take on the Mammoth on Thursday the 15th. So their next game at home is January the 18th. We'll be more than halfway done with January by the time they play another home game.
Well, the other thing I'm concerned about with the Stars, and I saw them in person last week in Chicago, was how sluggish they looked. This is a team loaded with Olympians. They've got 7 Olympians. It should be 8 with Jason Robertson, which would tie them for second most in the league. Those guys are about to get dispatched to go play some seriously high-level hockey in Milan, high-leverage hockey, that I wonder the impact of teams that are loaded up like that, what the Olympics are going to have. Are they conserving energy right now? Are they on eco boost mode as they're sort of trying to get through January and also not get hurt? I mean, do some of these teams go on autopilot by necessity just to try and get there? Is that part of this?
I think so, because, as we kind of, pivot to the next item on the rundown, the Panthers, I wonder, Brad Marchand he's got nicked up a bit. Paul Maurice said he's dealing with something. Like, do you sit him for 2 games, knowing he's got to go to Milan? And the Panthers got, 9 guys, I think, going to the Olympics. They have
There's
multiple
elite leaders.
countries. Tampa's got a Latvian, they got a Swede, they got a Finn, they got so they're loaded as well. Do you start giving guys, literally just rest them? Like I always, they talk about these long seasons, and why not just give a guy a rest so he can play 79 games? I know every game matters, but for some teams, you got to have faith in your team that we're gonna be fine. And in the long run, maybe we should rest these guys with the compressed schedule. A certain aged
What is
player
this, the
like
NBA?
Marchand. Well, not quite load management, but just this is a different year with the Olympics and with the compressed schedule, and it's just a lot. And you wonder if just once in a while, give a guy a day, and if he kind of needs it.
That's just I get what you're saying. I'm not crapping on it. That's just not how the NHL is programmed.
I know, and these tickets are expensive, and it's entertainment, and you don't want to have the backup singer at your favorite musical in New York when you spend big bucks to go see Hamilton or something. But, well, speaking of the Panthers, dominated last night by the Maple Leafs, who now have as many points as Florida. But Brad Marchand dominated the news cycle, Frank, before the game with some fun and revealing and opinionated sound bites. Chef's kiss. Listen.
It was between Florida and Toronto of where I was going to go. I mean, ultimately, if I never thought that it was going to be possible to re-sign in Florida. I really didn't, just with the guys that we had up and stuff like that. But, Toronto, I was serious about what I said with where they're at. As a group, the way that they're competing now, they compete the right way, which is what they kind of had to get over that hurdle. You know, it's unfortunate the fans ran Marner out of town. That kind of, I mean, that's a huge impact for their group. You know, he's a point-of-game player. Like that hurts. So, but yeah, I mean, they're a great team, great organization, but you know, once the opportunity came up to sign here, it was kind of no question. It's where I wanted to be.
A content machine, Frank. He's so good. He's so good.
Do you think he has a future in like WWE after he retires? Like, because he's the ultimate heel. I mean,
absolutely, marketing genius.
And to say it all with a straight face, like, I mean, you could tell at one point he was trying to stifle his smile right in the very beginning of it when he said it was down to Florida, Toronto. By the way, like, not to say that the Leafs wouldn't have been interested. Of course they would have been interested. Who wouldn't have been? But he never actually made it to free agency. Like, he signed before free agency opened. So it becomes the best part of the conversation, which is this was never really a possibility because the Panthers re-signed him, one, and two, to then sort of drop in there it's a shame that the fans around Mitch Marner out of town. I mean, hello, like, he knew exactly what he was saying, and to that assembled media, I mean, he was probably thinking about it for a couple of days heading into Toronto. How can I, grab the biggest ladle that I can find and stir the pot?
Right. And is it just a predilection of his that he just enjoys doing that in the moment and then seeing the reaction? Or was he planting a seed as a heel, as a competitor, knowing that there's a pretty good chance, a decent chance we will see Toronto again in the first or second round? They're right by us in the standings. We could be 2-3 in the Atlantic. They could be 2-3, or Florida could win the division and play them as a wild card team. That's possible. Like, there's multiple scenarios here where they could meet in the postseason again. So do you think he's doing that just to kind of get in the players' heads, or this is just a complete kind of thing that he has to do with the media?
This is a drive-by shooting is what it is. I mean, on paper, it says that Ted Rogers owns the Toronto Maple Leafs and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. But in reality, over the last decade plus, 15, 16 years, it's Brad Marchand who owns the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he just reminded everyone waving the deed around in their locker room that, that's the case still.
Well, let's get on to one more spot in the rundown before we talk with James Nichols about what happened to the New Jersey Devils last night, and that's #college hockey. News yesterday, Frank, 17-year-old NHL high draft prospect Ty Lawrence, who was playing in the USHL for the Muskegon Lumberjacks, right? I think it's the Lumberjacks.
The Lumberjacks, great name.
Yeah. Great name. They're defending champs, and he was the playoff MVP last year as a 16-year-old. He's going to go to Boston University now. Again, for now, he's projected as a top 5 pick. They won the Clark Cup last year, Muskegon, led by Lawrence, who was the MVP. He's from New Brunswick. Those are the numbers so far. You see, he's just a real smart 200-foot high competitive guy who's highly skilled. Just, man, the guy you'd love to plug in as a center for teams who really need a center, which is most everybody. And really, you really liked, Frank, the statement Muskegon put out in terms of supporting their player as he has a chance to be the number 1 overall. And for any competitor, that's a big deal. There's only one guy a year that can do that. There's not many guys, alive on planet Earth who are number 1 overall draft picks.
Well, and they're not coming from the USHL. Like, I don't know that a team is selecting a player number 1 overall out of the USHL based on the questions of any sort of competition. So with that, I really admire his courage here to take a step out. Think about the criticism that Gavin McKenna is experiencing for a relative lack of production at Penn State. This is a guy who is 100+ point scorer in Medicine Hat. He comes to Penn State, goals are harder to come by. Okay, Tynan Lawrence has been viewed by some scouts, The Athletic recently, a few weeks ago before the holidays, they had Tynan Lawrence number 1 on their board. So if you truly want to chase down that number 1 spot, go to BU, go to the place where Macklin Celebrini went to get in front of scouts, the eyeballs, the uptick in competition. But yes, also the statement, because it goes hand in hand with this changing environment here, which is, and this came straight from the Muskegon Lumberjacks. We hope that this move will help him compete for first overall in the NHL draft. Our program will always be about doing what's right by our players in regard to their development. And kudos also to the USHL, which they say, our path, your time. So, you do it on your own speed. We are graduating you. That's not how the CHL views it. They view it as, hey, you sign a contract here, and we expect you to come play here and stay here. So there's a lot. This is a sea change. This is a significant development, and that's why we're talking about it on today's show, to have someone leave the USHL and say, I want to level up my competition, and also to do it in the middle of the year, the holiday break, from semester 1 to semester 2, hey, you are enrolled, you are in school, and we are giving you a jersey as a BU Terrier. This is a massive development in NHL development circles.
Yeah, McKenna, 18 points in 16 games at Penn State, but just 4 goals. His 5-on-5 play, like it was at the World Juniors, as Craig Button told us, was certainly criticized by some and Lawrence. So that's what Celebrini did the same thing. He just went to BU at the beginning of his 17-year-old year. Celebrini was 17 years old his entire year at BU. He scored goals. You score 30 or more goals in college as a 17-year-old, you know you're ready for professional hockey. And now Lawrence will get a chance. Obviously, he won't play as many games, but there's plenty of games. He gets to play in the Bean Pot, which is on television all over North America. He gets to play in the Hockey East tournament. BU, right now, they're not a tournament team, so they need him to lead them to the NCAA tournament, maybe play in that in the Frozen Four, which is in Vegas. So he's got a chance to get a lot of eyeballs on him. And like you said, maybe vault himself into the first pick of the draft if he can score goals in the next 20 games at Boston University. He goes out and scores 18, 20 goals in these 20 games, and boom, he may jump in front of McKenna on the draft board. We shall see. All right, speak of the Devils. Let's bring in James Nichols. He is logged on, reporter in New Jersey Hockey Now. Devils lose last night 9-0 with 0 penalty minutes. James, I ask you, have the Devils hit rock bottom? Is this rock bottom for the Devils this year?
It feels like it. There's no excuse for the way things went down last night on Long Island. I mean, you look at the numbers and you look at the fancy stats and say, oh, look at the shots they put on goal, and they just ran into a hot goaltender. I don't think so. I think there's something wrong with this team. They can't continue to have these pep talks between periods and try to rally something here. And you get 2 wins, then you get 2 losses, and that snowballs into 3, 4, and something's not clicking here. Something's wrong, perhaps in the locker room. A lot of questions about that last night after the game, and although they will save face to you that we're trying, we're trusting the process. You could see a little bit of hesitancy in some of these responses and from the players where they can't quite put a finger on what it is that is the issue. But something is certainly wrong here, and it does certainly feel like rock bottom.
James, you've spent a while covering this league now. Does this Devils team look like one that's waiting for something to happen, whatever that is?
Well, I almost wonder if that's what's been going on since the Quinn Hughes chatter and the noise, right? Like that was a team that, was dealing with a bit of injuries at the time too. And, there were some players who heard their names circulated a lot, and it just felt like, they were waiting for something. And I had actually asked that question specifically to Sheldon Keefe. Does it feel like the team is waiting for something to happen, or are they waiting for, their guys to come off of the injured reserve to come back and save this team? And he said, like he has been, he's stuck with, we're sticking to the process. The guys are out there trying. But it's certainly, you look at a guy like Dougie Hamilton, who, I believe, and I have, on good authority that he's nixed at least one trade. And, I asked him about it. He kind of sidestepped the question, and, he kind of knows now, like, I'm not part of the future here, and he kind of looks like he's playing that way. And some guys are just, perhaps maybe too comfortable in the locker room, and they know that, I'm here and I'm, collecting a paycheck, and, I know where my spot is on the ice or in the lineup. And, there's just there's no bite, there's no snarl, there's no grit to this team right now. There's no emotion, there's no push. It's just kind of, we go out there, maybe we rally for a win or two, and then we let it snowball for 3 or 4, and we kind of sulk in the locker room after and just try to figure out, how to put it into words, and we can't. We just say we're going to come out and be better next time, and then we're not.
Yeah, you wonder what the options are for Tom Fitzgerald. Obviously, the onus is on him now to do something. One of Kevin Adams' downfall in Buffalo was when Buffalo went through their skid last year. He didn't do anything, right? And that was like, but sometimes patience is better. What can you do? Like, I don't know. Like, do you put Palat on waivers? Like, he's 6.5. They bought way too high on him, obviously. You get why they are interested. 3 straight cups, playoff monster with the bolts he produced. But again, 8 points this year, 6, I just wondered, you do something like that. You put him on waivers, you do something to wake up the room. Like, what else? What are the options? That's the point.
Well, the thing is, you can't with Palat. He's got a full no move, so you can't even put him on waivers to try to send him down to the American Hockey League, hope somebody plucks him off waivers or send a message that way. Same goes for Dougie Hamilton. You can't do that. He's got a full no move, and they both own the same protection in 10-team trade lists, so they really control the fate, their future, where they're going to go. So those two guys, it's clearly been difficult to move. It's starting to feel like the only option here, or I should say 2 options here. One, you have to take a hard look at the core and say, do we need to make a major shakeup here? And I'm not talking about just selling a guy for picks and prospects. Like, do you go out, and dangle, if you can, a Jesper Bratt for something of significance in return? Do you move on from Dawson Mercer, who signed that bridge deal and hasn't been what they thought he was going to be in terms of goal scoring? I asked. This is funny. I've been banging this drum for a little bit, but I asked the two trade deadlines ago when Tom Fitzgerald traded Tyler Toffoli, who's going to replace that 35 goal pace. Nobody has since, and he named Dawson Mercer as one of those guys, and it hasn't been that way. So maybe that's a piece you move on from. But it feels like somebody. Somebody from the core might have to move on at this point. You might have to, package some crazy package together to maybe go out. And I'm not saying that this is what they're thinking of. This is just what comes to mind. But, do the Senators want to move on from Brady Tkachuk? Can you make something like that happen? Some sort of impact, shocking trade that's going to send a message to the rest of the core to be like, hey, no one's safe now. Like, we're underperforming year after year at this point. The injuries can no longer be an excuse. I mean, everybody's back at this point. Something has to happen. There needs to be some sort of shock to the system. Not sure what form that comes in. And look, is it at the cost of the GM? Perhaps. It's at this point, maybe it's at the cost of the GM, because he's kind of backed himself into a corner here that he can't get himself out of.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned backed himself into a corner, because I think that's really the best way to frame it with some of these contracts, with some of the future pieces that have gone out the door. There really isn't a ton of wiggle room outside of maybe trading one of those core pieces that you talked about, which is what everyone loathes to do. But he's not alone in wearing the blame here. Like, what about Sheldon Keefe, who I don't think has done a poor job, but last night was really glaring, having Jacob Markstrom stay in the net for all 9 goals, particularly after one where he seemed to be skating to the bench and then had to turn around and go back to his crease because even he thought he was getting yanked. What gives?
Yeah, it's and after the game, he was asked about it, and he said, I thought he had to wear that one, while also saying I couldn't put Jake Allen in that situation. It kind of seems like, they're trying to send messages to each other, like, hey, I expect it to be out, that's why I skated to the bench, versus, hey, I expect you to stay in and wear that one and be better next time. Look, certainly there were a couple of goals that were given up by Markstrom, and when I say a couple, I mean they scored 9 last night, right? So, maybe the first 4, maybe the first 5 you look at and you say, okay, 3 out of 4 should have been stopped. But then when it gets to 6, 7, 8, I mean, it kind of just looked like Markstrom gave up. Yeah, sure, take the goal. Like it was like Goldberg in the Mighty Ducks, where he just got out of the net and just said, here's the goal, score. So it certainly is a bit jarring to see something like that. Maybe there is, he was asked, do you feel you lost the room? And he said, certainly I don't feel that way. But one of the other things I've been questioning with, Sheldon Keefe, like you said, Frank, I don't think he's done necessarily that bad of a job either. I think he is trying to squeeze as much out of this roster as he can. At the same time, I don't know if he's necessarily utilizing them to their strengths. Before he was with New Jersey, they were a high speed, high skill rush team, and now, they're relying on defense and goaltending, and that's, not Jack Hughes's way. That's not Jesper Bratt's way, and you're certainly seeing it in the goal scoring department. I mean, they're going into the game last night. I haven't checked since this morning. They were 29th in the league with 2.64 goals per game. I mean, we're talking about a team 1 year ago that was top five with like almost 3.5. So the drop off has certainly been jarring. The lack of emotion, the lack of pushback, the lack of fight has been jarring. And, certainly a lot of people are fed up with it at this point. I mean, I know I've been fooled year after year where I come in and I'm like, okay, he said he wanted to go out and get some depth scoring. He goes out and gets Connor Brown. He brings in Arseny Gritsyuk, and those guys actually have done well, but everything else around them hasn't, necessarily panned out like that. And the top six isn't improving. And they came into this season with clear needs at a top six forward. You can't continue to trot Andre Palat out there with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. They need a third line center. I think Cody Glass has been fine, but if you have him as your 4C and you have somebody of more significance at 3C, you're suddenly a lot more deep than you were before. Certainly some roster construction issues, some personnel issues here. There's just a lot that needs to be dissected in New Jersey. There's going to have to be a lot of tough conversations to figure out what it is to get this team, to actually take that next step, because it looked like they might have in the first 10 games of the season. And now, since then, it's just been abysmal. It's a sub 500 hockey team since then. Yes, there were injuries, but everyone's back now. There's no excuses for this. I mean, Pesci's in the lineup. Jack Hughes is in the lineup. Timo Meyer's back. I mean, this is enough at this point. I mean, it's clearly not working with this group, and there needs to be some sort of message somehow.
Who's the alpha in the room, in the locker room? How would you describe the dressing room, and who are the alphas?
Yeah, it's interesting this season. It's kind of been, different people. The game that they came back and won in Columbus, it was Connor Brown, which that guy's been here for 3 months. Like, he's the guy stepping up to get the team, to rally, right? A couple games before that, it was Jack Hughes. Nico Hischier always he's a well-respected captain, and I think everybody looks to him as a leader. But I think, Brendan Dillon is one of those guys for me. He's one of the guys that, is one of the most veteran, and a lot of the younger guys look to him for advice, and they lean on him a bit for his leadership. So he's one of those guys who I look to. I know I love talking to him all the time. He always has really great insight and really great viewpoint on certain things that are going on. But even he last night, he could not find the words. I had said to him, are some people maybe too comfortable here? And it looked like he hesitated to say maybe, but he didn't necessarily want to, put anybody out. So he was just kind of like, I don't know. But that's certainly the feeling I'm getting, is just maybe some comfortability here is becoming too much. Is it a country club at this point? Are people just coming to collect a paycheck, play some hockey, and go home? I don't know. Maybe that's the case. There needs to be some more investigation into that, and I certainly plan on doing it. But something's broken here, and you ask who the alpha is. It's a funny question because it's been somebody different every night, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe that there is no clear cut, leader in the room who everyone looks to and says, "All right, get us going." Because again, this team, they claim that they're close, they're tight knit. There's no disparity between players and personnel, but I don't know, man. It's interesting. They can't get out of their own way.
So last one for me, James, and appreciate you joining us. Last night was humiliating on so many levels for New Jersey, but does another layer get added to it when you think about the overall hierarchy in not just the Eastern Conference, but like the Islanders have clearly passed the Devils at this point, not just in the standings, but to lose 9-0 to a, sort of cross-town rival, so to speak, in the tri-state area. Does that add another log to this fire that's burning?
Yeah, I mean, as awful and rock bottom as things seem right now, I mean, what's the difference between, where they are in the standings, 7th in the Metro, and the second wild card? It's only 3 points, so it certainly does feel like it's a hierarchy thing where you look to Tom Fitzgerald and you say, how much longer can you allow this to go? But also understand that he's backed himself into a corner and he's handcuffed at this point. But look, it's clear like the Devils need finishing, right? And although, right, the Islanders, like you said, have kind of widened the gap there, is something like 8 points between them and the Devils. I mean, it's still relatively close in terms of the third spot in the Metropolitan Division with just 51 points by the Flyers. So by no means, like, look, it feels rock bottom. The season's not over. If there is some sort of groundbreaking move that's made here, if there is some sort of major shakeup that's made here, look at the Sabres. They went on a major run when they shook things up and changed their GM. And if it's not going to be the GM and it's something significant, like I know a lot of fans in the New Jersey are kind of down on the idea of a Steven Stamkos at 35 years old, but look at who he played with in Tampa Bay. He wasn't driving the bus. It was Braden Point. It was Nikita Kucherov. He's going to get that kind of support with Jesper Bratt or Jack Hughes feeding him the puck, and he's kind of scoring now too. So look, I don't know that Nashville's willing to trade him at this point. They've kind of, turned things around a little bit. Perhaps there is something about, or something to perhaps overpaying for a player, but I mean, they need something. And it starts with Tom Fitzgerald. And look, if he can't make it happen, I think ownership, who, has two other major franchises who they have certainly cut ties with, the GMs in for less. I think they have to take a look at, all right, who's steering our boat here, and do we trust him to even make the next trade? And if we do, is it going to be something of significance that's not going to set us back, even further? We're wasting years of our core here. I mean, these guys aren't, these guys aren't green bananas anymore. They're not 20 years old anymore. They're in their mid 20s to later 20s. And how much longer can you wait for this team to finally be able to say, okay, we are a Stanley Cup contender? Because at one point in 22-23, you were looking at them and you were saying, okay, maybe this team can be like the next Avalanche. And now you're looking at them and you're saying, maybe they're kind of more like the Leafs.
I like the green banana analogy. There's probably just that hint of green, just short of perfect, because of the age of some of the defensemen, Hughes and Nemitz. Like if they were 25, then the banana might be perfect. But you're right. They're fourth from the bottom in goals scored. I just think Stamkos in so many ways, because he could do all the news, all the media afterwards. He gives them an institutional kind of knowledge and respect. I think that's why he'll be a great GM or president. He knows how to build an organization and how the tone must be for everybody to win. And that's what they seem they seem a bit wobbly. And they need to come up with a mission statement or something. Here's how we win hockey games, and these are the players that we need to have to do that. But it's going to be interesting to watch. But you're right. Everyone's just 1 5-game winning streak away, one good 2-week run to be right back in the hunt. James, thanks so much, buddy. Great stuff. Thanks for joining Frankly Hockey.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Talk soon.
That's a good fertile discussion team, isn't it, right now?
It is, and I just think all these teams that get caught up in, but we're only 5 points away, like that's a really tough attitude to view it with. And I know patience is key. Sometimes, the best trades you make are the ones you don't, but to allow this team to languish the way that they have, and I don't see the clear and easy exit ramp for the Devils. It's Palat, it's Hamilton, it's Timo Meier ends up, it's a poor trade. Like there's no way around it. They've devoted significant resources to guys that are not difference makers. And that's a difficult place to be in. And if you allow that to linger, I just think the league passes you by, which they've done in the standings.
Yeah, you wonder, with all these months in January, this will finally be the separating month for a lot of teams. That when the calendar turns February or even the Olympic break and suddenly you're 11 points behind, then it's like, okay, now we know who we are. So this is a huge month, I think, really for everybody. We might finally see some separation in this crazy, crazy season. Hey, let's ask the insider. That's Frank, who has spiders falling from his ceiling. Right where on the spider went right between his eyes, right down to your lap. But he didn't get you. He didn't bite you. You're going to make it through the show.
Good news.
Okay.
And good news.
What
potentially
is Connor Bedard's timeline?
Yeah. I'm told that Connor Bedard has entered a 7 to 10 day window for a guy that was on track for 100 points this season to be back in the Chicago Blackhawks lineup. So the countdown is on. Obviously, he's been skating since early last week and is doing more and more, progressing to that shooting with that shoulder. So Look, he's closing in on that return, and not a firm timeline in place, but he's one of those players that once he gets a hint of that comeback window, he's going to burst right through it to do whatever he can to play.
Yeah, sounds like if he was 25 and this was the playoffs, he'd be playing right now. But yeah, let's give it another week. Get that shoulder nice and tight, yo. And they've won 4 of 11. They've been better since they made the adjustment. Once they lost him, they were an absolute gong show. But now they've made the adjustment of playing without him and Nazar. And he and Nazar are kind of pushing each other in the rehab part of things. So again, this could be another speed bump that in the end just helps his team, helps Bedard, helps Nazar as they continue to congeal and just because at some point they're going to pop hard, whether that's next year or whatever. But it's coming. They're 29th in the league with 40 games left in their season. So Connor Bedard getting close. All right, hashtag hockey now. And for this installment of hashtag hockey, we're going to give our viewers the bird, Frank. The Penguins are flightless birds with flippers instead of wings, as you know. They're known for their waddling gait and white plumage, expert swimmers and divers, inhabiting marine environments almost exclusively in the southern hemisphere. Sidney Crosby's a penguin at work, Frank, but otherwise he's a mammal like you and I. But apparently this bird by night and some day games, he's a decent bird identifier. He was outed by teammate Kevin Hayes. Watch.
The breaking news of the year, or that you're into bird watching.
Oh God, are we, what? This is Hazy's fault. Like, he said one thing and then I just have to, you should actually video this so he sees what I have to deal with.
Sid, he knows a lot about everything, but he looks out the window and can tell you what bird is flying by. We'll see a bird on the side of the road, he'll know what it is. He's downplaying his knowledge of birds. It just adds to his mystery. He knows everything about everything. It's crazy. It's Sidney Crosby. It's the GOAT.
This is hilarious that I'm getting roped into this right now, and I have to go with it. That's a loon. It's a hummingbird, woodpecker, some kind of duck. That's a pigeon, or a dove. That's some kind of, is that a falcon? American bald eagle.
You have an 87 in Boston to your binoculars.
He probably has a pair of binoculars with 87 on them, but probably hides them now that I'm onto his bird watching case. Sid, I'm getting asked bird questions.
That is so rich. There's so much. I mean, the Duncan hat on Kevin Hayes, who grew up in Dorchester, Massachusetts. The only birds he saw were pigeons, like literally pigeons on the sidewalk in Dorchester. He's got the Nantucket hoodie with that bear and a captain's hat on. It was Boston accent talking about city. But you see Crosby, once they start quizzing him, boom, laser, focus, 100%.
The way he said loon, he was like, yep, that's a loon. I mean, he's on it.
Hit the
dialed.
And the loon, and he dialed right away.
So once upon
good.
a time, 2013 lockout, I am sitting in a diner. There's nothing to do, not covering hockey, and I meet up with former Penguins president of hockey operations, Brian Burke, and we're sitting there talking. And I have to ask him, I wonder if this is where the bird watching comes from. But me in my sophomoric state, and there may or may not have been a beverage consumed on this day, and Brian Burke is telling me that he's into bird watching, and I'm laughing. I go, what, at urinals? And I couldn't help myself. And he's like, no, I'm really into watching. Like, I go in my backyard and with my binoculars and identify it. And I'm just like, oh, sorry about that. Yeah, pretty embarrassed.
He's a high-strung guy, so it's a chill kind of hobby. So for Brian Burke, I can see, he's wired. His brain never stops. So it's just nice to do something that's, let's face it, incredibly boring, because that's just probably how he decompressed. So, yeah, bird watching. Haven't got into that yet. Maybe someday. All right, you got to speculate to accumulate in life sometimes. Hopefully it's by maxing out your 401k, young people out there. Do that. Start young and don't touch it. But there's other ways to speculate. And Frank, you are on a heater on the ice.
We have not just been speculating, but we've been accumulating, as we are at a season high 10.1 units on the positive. Been rolling like an absolute unit so far. And tonight I'm going to go a little bit off the board because, well, when you're up 10 units, you can afford to chase a little bit. So I'm going with the San Jose Sharks on a back-to-back on the money line. They beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 5-2 on Tuesday night, and not far travel for San Jose to the Bay Area to LA. That's not an arduous trip to play a Kings team that, yes, they did win the other night, but they've been relatively scuffling of late. This is a juicy plus 230. Like, I like where the Sharks are at in the standings. They're neck and neck with the Kings. If you had told me that this was plus 140 or plus 150, I'm not touching it. But at plus 230, I'm in. So this could get us, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but over 12 units. It only costs you one. I'm in. I want to see. I'm going to roll the dice tonight on the Sharks plus 230 on the back-to-back. They're young legs. They can do it.
I'm concerned about this one. Ryan Reeves got knocked out last night. Maybe this young team, maybe that'll kind of affect them emotionally, maybe a little bit. But you're right. Part of speculation is the payoff. It's not just purely, I think this will happen. It's like, this is too good to pass up this speculation opportunity.
Yeah, it's all about the plus 230. They got to chase the juice. I don't really lay a lot of chalk, so those odds courtesy of our friends at BetMGM.
All right. Get your Bitcoin, kids, and sit on it, Potsy. All right, time for the last word in this edition of Frankly Hockey. And once again, we see the importance of first responders at hockey games. Frank, it's we look around society, and in so many parts of society we get frustrated at because things haven't gotten better. But some parts of society have gotten incredibly better. That's like, and especially in first responders, especially if you're a hockey player, whether it's a cut by a skate. There has to be a doctor in attendance. These guys get taken care of right away. Whatever it is, they know what to do, and they absolutely take the highest level of caution.
They do, and good to see it because Hayden Fleury needed it last night for the Winnipeg Jets. A really terrible spill into the boards, just unlucky, not really dirty, and he. All of his weight and force, he needed to be taken to the hospital by ambulance. He actually remained in the hospital overnight. The broken nose, the least of his injuries. So we're waiting on a further update from the Winnipeg Jets. But the care that these guys receive, most times they get taken to the hospital out of an abundance of caution. In this case, look, they prepare for these things. They train for these things. They actually do mock scenarios multiple times a year where they're looking at skate cuts or, whatever it might be. I don't even want to think about some of those things. But I remember there was a game last week. They couldn't restart the game because the ambulance had left to go to the hospital, and you can't start the game until there actually is an ambulance there. So anyway, I say all that just to say thank you, first off. And second, the preparation, and this is at many different levels of sport, to keep everyone safe, could not be more thankful for it.
Absolutely. We churn out graduates every year, and that's what's great about the medical community. The medical community, they share information. Obviously, they can call each other. It's not like a hyper-competitive thing. They just want everyone to be prepared, to be better, and to always see every circumstance. And like you said, to practice for it, to rehearse it in case it does happen, so you can keep your breathing down, make rational decisions, make the proper decisions. There's so much at stake there. And these athletes are lucky that they have the support they have from the medical community. And we saw it on display once again. Hayden Fleury, please get well, get better. And again, great job again. Stick taps all around for the first responders at every level of hockey that we enjoy having and are thankful for having. Any last words from you, Frank, before you defumigate your spider-infused underground hockey lair?
No, I'm looking forward. I'm trying to cook up something good for TGIF for Friday, a little blind rank. So that's going to be my task for the afternoon.
Oh, that was fun. Okay.
Make some calls too. Spidey, speaking of Spidey's senses are tingling a little bit on Elias Pettersson and what's happening in Vancouver.
And I heard yesterday, I think I forgot to mention, it sounds like the league is now happy with Milan. Like, they're now at peace. Like, we're good. We're going to be good. Okay. Arena-wise. Yeah, arena-wise, right. So it looks, okay. I think, the little exhale there. And it's still early January, so I think we're good. They're happy with that. All right, good. It's Wednesday. On to Thursday. I'm going to drive up and see Mom. She lives north of Boston right now, so I'm going to say hi to Mom. So I'll be coming from my sister's house tomorrow. So my location number is adding up. I should count. By the end of the year, we might be up to 50.
You're on the run.
It's going to be a lot. On the run, baby. On the run
On
from
the lam.
authorities. That's Frank. I'm Bucci. This is Frankly Hockey. Thanks for watching on Victory Plus. We will see you tomorrow.